Hi, I'm Mariel.
Hi guys, I'm Jazz.
Micah.
All right, so let's go with our first question. That was good. Okay. Our first question is, what is IB Economics? So, who wants to take that question first?
I think the senior should take this question.
I
Yeah.
like this question. Um, IB Economics. What do you expect? It's an economics class. You want to learn about the economy and how it works from three perspectives: from a micro, which is like from the perspectives of firms; macro, which is more like for a whole economy as a country; and global is like an international level.
Right. And since there people taking this as a junior would probably most likely encounter this for the first time. Yeah, economics is basically, I'll just go with the textbook definition here. It's the social science that studies the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. So those words you probably used it a lot, but up until when you start thinking IB economics. Yeah. Daz, anything else to add?
Yeah, like usually for juniors, it'd be the first time encountering all the terms for economics, but it usually starts off really simple, like just with the concepts of supply and demand. I remember that being pretty easy when I first started economics, so it's not that intimidating.
Right. All right. For our second question is, why should I take IB Economics? And one frequently asked questions about this is, what's the difference between economics and business management? So, yeah, Jazz, you take both, right? So, do you
Yeah,
want?
they're super different. Business management, like the stuff you learn there, you learn from the perspective of someone managing like individual businesses. But for economics, you're like Ika said, you're learning about the distribution and production of goods and services and stuff. There's some concepts where they overlap, but in terms of their syllabus, they're very different.
Yeah, the only thing that like actually overlaps is like the last unit of global economics, which is like balance of payments. I don't know if you guys did it yet, but that's about it.
hmm
Mhm.
Like the most similarities you'll encounter is just like similar terms they use, and that's all.
And just from my perspective, economics is pretty much really fun because once you take it, you could apply it in lots of other subjects like TOK, which you will take in the second sem of your junior year, and also the first sem, I think, in your senior year. You get
Yeah.
to a lot of articles, and then yeah, because once you learn economics, you see how it applies to the real world. So yeah, that's one thing that's really fun about it, I guess.
Yeah, you start like using opportunity cost in every sentence you have. It's like, what's the opportunity cost in doing this?
And I think a fun unit for econ's behavioral economics. I feel like you can apply that to a lot of stuff.
Mhm.
I
Like
liked behavior.
incentives, the nudges.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah, nudge theory.
it's like a bit of psychology in that unit, but then economics wise, if you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
it's like, how does human psychology affect economic decisions, basically.
Yeah. Okay. Well, moving on to the third question. What's the syllabus like, and what do you usually do in class? So I'll start with this question. So basically, it's economics is divided into four main sections. First one is microeconomics, like they said before, and then the second one is macroeconomics. Third is international economics, and fourth is development economics. So in grade 11 in your junior year, you only cover, I think, the first two, micro and macros, which is this economics on a small scale, and the second one is economics on a larger scale. And I guess I could cover the second two,
Oh
internet.
yeah.
and development?
International economics or global economics. You look at like economics between multiple countries. So you're looking at trade, for example, protectionism, free trade, or like exchange rates, and how that influences economic decision making. And for the last one, which is development economics, you're now looking at how can economic decisions lead to more sustainable development, or how can we improve the social welfare of a country or a community through various economic decision making. Yeah.
Jazz, you want to add anything else? What do you think, like, the syllabus is like in general? Like, your first impressions of it?
The syllabus is very thorough, and usually it follows like a pattern. You learn the basic concepts first, and then afterward, you learn like the causes and effects of whatever you're learning, and then you learn the diagrams. And in our class, the economics class is like a very heavy lecture class. And what we do in class, usually you listen to Mr. B lecture for the whole hour and you read from the book. But it's very insightful.
Right. And then like, it's a lot of textbook definitions and stuff, but like when you'll get the hang of it once you know like what the syllabus is looking for you to do, which is basically you're supposed to understand economic theories, policies, and practices. And really, in the first year, we don't do a lot of math either. Like, you'd think there's like a lot of calculations in it, but I guess does that come up later on in the year or no?
Well, we don't really focus on calculations because calculations in economics are pretty simple if you think about it. Because, like, it's like what's unemployment rate, GDP per capita, or like what you guys did, which is already PED or price elasticity of demand, which is relatively simple. So, math isn't really a heavy component unless you're taking HL Econ. Then you're going to need it for your paper 3 examination.
Okay. So, that's good for the third question. So now for the fourth question is, what are your study methods and what makes it effective? Okay, Jazz, want to go first?
I think the way I study for econ, usually our teacher posts like the competencies and all of the stuff we need to remember for the test, and it's pretty thorough and specific. So I take that and I think about what kind of questions he would ask on the test, and I practice writing down my answers for it. And usually, tests have a question at the end or a few questions at the end where they ask for a diagram and a very long explanation. So I think diagrams are super important to practice. So I usually do stuff like that. I practice answering, practice questions, and practice my diagrams. And I think it works. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I just basically refer back to my notes, and for my note taking, it's really during our lectures. Not only do we does our teacher have slides, but he talks extensively on those slides. So usually, I don't write down what's on the slides already, but I rephrase it, but also write down all the additional things that our teacher talks about. So, because that helps a lot, because it's really insightful, like Jazz said, and then it's like another way of saying or explaining what's already on the slide. And I have two sets of notes. One is the rough econ notes. It's basically what I take in class, and then the second set of notes that I take is neat. So I basically, for when we're given the marks or the topics that we have to cover in for the test, I basically write those down and then just refer back to my notes and then just organize them so that all of the things that we're gonna test it on is easy to see. Yeah.
I think that's a good system.
I like to gatekeep, but I don't share my study methods, but I'm just kidding. How I study for econ, because it's a lot of like memorization, you need to learn like definitions, and actually really understand the concepts. I like to do what Ariel does, I guess. I go back to my notes, I read it, and I also like to retype my notes completely, and I'll do that like 3 times, I guess, just to make sure that I remember everything. So I type down my notes based off memory. Whatever I'm lacking, I'll write that down in another color on another sheet of paper, so I know what I need to review again. And then I also like to do a lot of flashcards. That just helps me remember like all the concepts and theories. But for the test itself, you need to know, like what Jazz says, you need to know a lot of diagrams. So I'll actually like write a diagram and do the whole explanation in a paper, and you just keep doing that, and then until you already completely memorize it, I guess. But also looking at your textbook, and if you look at the first page of each unit, they're like questions, like define supply and demand, or like there are already questions there that you can answer. So also doing those is a really good practice.
I agree, because like I like how you guys said that you wrote it down, because that's really different from typing it down. Because usually people nowadays take down digital notes, but like on the actual exam, it's gonna have you write it. So it's better to like write, practice writing before the test. And then also like always refer to the textbook definitions. Like our teacher always says to like not rely on like your own like your own definition, but like just in case, like at the start, you kind of want to memorize the textbook definitions first, so that like it's safer. Okay. Yeah, I think those are really effective methods for you guys to use. And for the second last question, what are the tests like? So this, I guess, is more focused on like the actual tests, like the questions, and maybe like IB test. So that's like also questions for you, Becca. So for the actual unit tests, for us, it's by unit, right? So it's not really cumulative. Unlike
Thank goodness.
yeah.
Oh.
I have this. I have it. It's that. You have a whole folder of all the unit tests you've done. My first page is Taylor Swift because Mr. B gave me a poster, but like, that doesn't matter. Yeah, so it's like.
Is that like from all the way from like grade 11?
Yeah, this is chronological order.
Wow. How many are there?
I don't know actually. It's like 14? Something like that. 14 unit tests.
So yeah, tests are basically unit tests. It's not cumulative because, I guess if it's cumulative, like, because the tests tend to get really detailed, and like there's lots of things that you need to remember, like not only definitions but like real life examples, and then also diagrams, like Jad said, and then you like have to constantly refer to those diagrams in your explanation for that. And yeah, what else do you guys think?
You're gonna hate econ if each test was cumulative. I would have like
horrible.
I would have dropped out. I always joke with like my classmates, we would have dropped out of econ if the tests were cumulative because none of us can handle that.
That'd be so horrifying. But like because the tests aren't cumulative, we go like way more in depth into every unit. Like in contrast to business where every test is cumulative, oh my god. Like, we don't go that deep into each unit as we do in econ because business takes cumulative tests rather than unit tests.
Okay.
I kind of like that about econ.
Unit tests actually help because, like, Mr. B was saying, oh, you're going to realize that my unit tests are actually helping you prepare for the IB exams and whatnot. Because
No, I think it actually does.
It does. Because now I'm studying for it. You actually see that the types of questions he gives you are the types of questions you're going to see in paper 1s, paper 2s, paper 3s. And it's like, you're gonna know how to answer these questions basically. So you're not really that worried on how you're supposed to answer them. You just need to be worried about, do you actually know what you learned?
Yeah.
So what's paper 1? Like, what's the difference between paper 1, paper 2, and paper 3? I know that paper 1 is like more essay writing, right?
Yeah. Oh, I was actually doing paper 1 before this call. Paper 1 is an essay format. So they're gonna ask you, they're gonna present you 3 questions. I don't know about the new syllabus, but they're gonna present you 3 questions, and you choose one question to answer. And there's a part A and part B. Part A question is 10 marks. Part B is 15 marks, and you have to use basically, like, for example, one past paper is like asking what's the difference between let's do a micro question, not a macro one. Like, explain the natural rate of unemployment. That's the part A question. So then you talk about like broad economic concepts, and then you narrow it down answering the question. And part B would be like, using real world examples, evaluate the effectiveness of monetary policies in reducing a large deflationary gap. So then now you have to have a real life example, and then you use diagrams to explain this concept, and then you evaluate. So what's the pros, what's the cons, and you talk about that. And that's paper 1. But paper 2 is a data response. So I think it's more like business. You basically read about a country's economic situation, and then they're going to ask you questions about that. So you have to refer back to the data in the question. You have to explain like the supply and demand. They're going to ask you to use a diagram to explain a certain concept. And also for this one, they're going to give you like 2 texts, and then you only have to answer one. And for paper 3, this is only for HL. It's a half calculation, so you're going to do a lot of calculation-based questions. And part B for paper 3 is you have to suggest an economic policy for a country or community. So then you're going to read about this country and then say, okay, this is what I suggest for you to do. So that's basically the gist of it.
So I guess only Jazz is gonna have to worry about calculations next year.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be that bad. It's like it's pretty easy, honestly, the calculations. The harder part is the policy suggestion, I think.
That unit sounds so interesting. Oh no.
No, you're not gonna like development econ. No, you're not gonna like it.
Okay, well,
It's a lot of laundry lists, like a lot of bullet points you need to remember. Like,
I don't like that.
yeah, that's. Yeah, he literally says, Mr. B literally said, this is the driest unit of econ, and you have to just sit there and listen.
I feel like he said that last time. Like,
He always says that.
he always says that.
Yeah, but like for what was it? Behavioral economics. He's like, this is my favorite unit.
You did say that with us.
Right.
Yeah. Right. So just to summarize, the tests usually you'll have to have real life examples, so how it would usually apply in your real life. So, and then there's diagrams, so you actually have to draw um, uh, like X and Y coordinates, and then like lines on the diagrams. It's basically like graph.
Yeah, that. You have to draw it.
Yeah, like
So
You have to draw it. I don't actually know if that's correct, but it's like that.
draw it and not get full marks, because like you have to like have the explanation to like you know.
knowing the exact way to draw diagrams is super important because you can get points off for like the smallest mistakes. Like
Oh my god. I mislabeled my y-axis. It's like
Oh my
I
God,
just
I
wrote
did that
price. And he was like, it's not price, it's price/cost. And I was like,
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's how like meticulous it has to be.
That's horrible. So you really have to practice. Get everything right before the test.
yeah, look at the textbook. Don't rely on your notes because your notes can be wrong.
Oh my god. Yeah.
And yeah, and don't forget the definitions as well. Like those are like kind of easy points, so you gotta make sure that you like get that like memorized too. All right. So for the last question, do you guys have, or do we have any tips for those who wants to take it, or anything you wish you would have known before taking the class?
Listen super hard in class because Mr. B says a lot of stuff and they'll be useful for you when you're like trying to answer the test. You'll hear Mr. B's voice like explaining something and it'll guide you. And usually what he says is really insightful and like stuff that you won't find in the PowerPoint. So, okay, Mr. B talks a lot, but some of it is really good, so you should listen.
Yeah. But you guys are not gonna have Mr. B. He's retiring already with us. So, good luck with your next teacher. I don't know who they will be. I don't know what kind of tests they're gonna give. It might be cumulative this time. It might not. So just be prepared for the worst or for the best. Economics is fun. If you like it, it's fun.
If you find the topics interesting, then you'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah. It's like you're gonna be able to look at the news and understand what they're talking about, which is like a life skill in a sense.
And I think that's a good tip too, to be aware of like what's happening around you and read the news because that'll also give you good real life examples that you could use in your tests.
And you're gonna need it for your commentaries.
Oh yeah. Oh, is that's the IA, right? Wait, I can believe.
Yeah, that's an IA.
Right. Bonus segment. How IAs. What are IAs like? All right. So basically IAs usually they're like at the end of the 4 things, right? So there's one IA or commentary that you do on microeconomics. The other one is on macroeconomics, and then which one?
Global. Yeah, you write 3 commentaries in total, 1 for each section of the syllabus. So micro, macro, global, econ. And then you have to choose an article that's within a year of when you're writing it. So it has to be the latest news. And then you basically look at the article and then you evaluate it from an economist's perspective. So if it's micro and you're looking at let's say there's a shortage of a primary commodity like onions. That's what I wrote. There's a shortage of onions, so you're gonna now talk about like Why is there a shortage of onion? What will this shortage cause? Will it cause people to change their economic behavior and consumption patterns? How can the government help to improve this shortage and etc.? And you now also do that for micro, macro, and global.
All right, that's it for our IA segment. Back to our segment. Yeah, so I guess for me, like just make sure that you like find ways of like how to make it fun for yourself, because without that, like without you finding any meaning in it, I guess it's like a really hard like subject that you might consider taking, because you can't just show up to class and not study for it. I mean, that's the case for like all subjects, but like yeah, you really have to put effort and like time into studying for econ.
Yeah. And talk to Mr. B. He's so fun to talk to. Like,
Funny guy,
he's,
for sure.
he's a jolly guy, you know? You can talk to him about basketball, you know, everything. You can talk to him about Ghibli films. He'll also know everything
I
about it.
talked to him about Studio Ghibli films too. It was so funny.
He has a freaking Totoro plushie in his room that he will set on a chair in front of you while you're taking the test to cheer you on.
Oh my
know?
god.
Mr. B's just funny. Plus, he gives you
I think he likes
snacks
the
while you
senior
study.
class more than the junior class.
I think he does.
Yeah, I think he does by a lot actually.
He gives us snacks. Like, he just has like otap or like hopia lying around, and then he'll give it to us.
You know what? I think he gives us like your leftovers from the snacks.
That's so funny.
Seniors a lot.
I think another tip I have for tests is to like don't procrastinate studying until the night before. Like don't do that to yourself.
Yeah.
Like it will feel so much easier and better if you spread out your studying for like at least a few days. That'll make the test so easy.
Yeah, spend a weekend doing econ. Then you're gonna be fine. If you have like one weekend of like, you're fine. You're gonna know everything already. But just
Yeah,
like,
you're gonna do good.
Yeah. Flashcards, do like any like studying methods that helps you remember it, and do it like in not in like, what do you call it? Not like on a time crunch. Like don't procrastinate basically.
yeah.
I did that before a lot. Didn't work out.
Yeah.
How was it? How was it?
I did that so much in the first semester and I ended with an A-, and that was my only A- for that semester. I have so much regret.
If you did that and still got an A-, that's actually good.
But like look at my, you know, I could have done so much better. And it's not like, oh, it's just my fault. It's all my fault. It's just my bad time management. I have nothing else to blame it on. So don't do that to yourself.
What I regret in econ last year was I didn't retest the first unit test, and that dragged down my grades so much because yeah, that was my worst test out of all the unit tests I've done. The very first unit test was my worst one, and I regret not doing a retake for that.
Yeah,
Oh my
because
God.
like, I had one retake, so like yeah, gotta be wise with that.
Yeah. And if you're confident that you can do good and you do bad on your first ever unit test, do the retake. It's gonna help you.
Right? Like literally just learn from your mistakes. And
Yeah.
But I have so many papers.
all right, so I guess that's it for now. Thanks guys again for joining me for answering econ. And yeah, that's pretty much it. That's it.
Bye.
See you guys.
Good luck. Join Econ.
Join econ, yeah.